Mayu, so we meet up with you at Workshop 2 in Cowra today, just at the beginning of October. Have you been looking forward to this one?
Yes, very much so. After Jumadi's shadow puppet workshops and the documentary making workshops with yourself, Bruce, and David Hansen, we are on the second round of workshops, and this time it's with voice and movement with Wei Zhen Ho and Alan Shacker, and it's been wonderful working with them. As a matter of fact, it's been wonderful working with a group of very, very talented genius artists for this project.
What you hear becomes a part of you. Speechly, Marathi, Taylor, Ligio, Nunu, 2013, Fighting, Night, May.
Wei Zhen and Alan I've known with other projects that I've worked with them. They're very spiritual people, very intellectual people, and also they are in tune with everything that's going around in the universe, shall we say. So they quickly understood the project and took it to its deepest levels.
Alan, I've been most impressed with your workshops. Could you tell me a little bit about them?
Sure. Well, my partner Wei Zhen Ho and I have been invited by Mayu Kanamori, a friend and colleague, to teach or lead movement and voice workshops here in Cowra during the school vacation. So it's for teenagers and any interested adults. And we were going to possibly teach separate movement and voice workshops, but especially Wei Zhen's philosophy is that movement and voice production are not separate. So we combined to lead together. My interest in Japanese culture goes back to when I lived in Japan as a member of a Buto company, Maijuku, which was a farming dance company. And before that, I, many years ago, studied Aikido, practiced Aikido. So yeah, I have a bit of an interest in Japanese culture, and this project is essentially about the, apart from wishing to impart new skills to young future artists, is about the Japanese civilian internments here in Cowra. And it's a history most people, including myself, are not aware of. And it's I'm from a Jewish background, so the idea of people being detained because of their race, even within their home country, is very pertinent for me, because my grandparents were murdered in concentration camps in Germany. And my mother was a Kindertransport child from Germany to England. So I kind of resonate with the idea that Japanese, because of their country of origin, and perhaps just because of their identity, perhaps they weren't even Australian citizens, I'm not quite sure, were detained elsewhere, and then after being buried where they had died in internment camps, were later brought here to form one Japanese cemetery. But at the moment this is called a Japanese War Cemetery, as opposed to identifying the civilian internees as a distinct group. So we've got these two strands of wanting to impart an awareness to the youth, of wanting to identify personal histories that may resonate with the notion that anybody, a civilian, might be detained and their lives turned upside down. and this art making process being the means of the language being used. So here trying to find histories, emotions, sounds that the body can produce that can both talk about one's own personal history and then perhaps can be evocative here in this cemetery location.
This morning is actually a culmination of quite a few days, several days process of first of all arriving in Kara and actually revisiting the war cemetery sites and visiting the Japanese gardens and being part of the Sakura Matsuri festival, and certainly the continual research around the internment history as well as the POW history, and how actually Kara became the base for all these sites.
Yes.
Just because it was the perfect place in World War II to be the military base, training base. And therefore all these relationships happen. And certainly working with Mayu, I started getting an understanding of how she felt it was really important to also create a balance within the POW, the Japanese POW history, that civilians were also interned. And I think that may not be clear because this is called the war cemetery, but really if you look around from this block, the B block to the C block, they were civilians who may have been naturalized, some may not have been naturalized, some of them first generation, some of them people who had intermarried with Japanese people, but at the point that war broke out, I suppose, and so you have, for example, the grave, stones and plaques of 3-month-olds and 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds. I mean, that kind of affects me.
Yeah.
How we tried to develop the workshop, and the intention around that was to, first of all, even though the greater context was about the internment civilians' history, we wanted to be able to access personal histories and make a connection there, and therefore bring it together in an interrelationship with the people who are buried here and their personal history. So that's really what we tried to move into. We had exercises that kind of allowed an opening of the voice.
We're shooting in very dark situations, and we don't usually use that unless it's very necessary because it creates, what happens to the image? Noise, lots of noise. Little pixels, random bits of colour and stuff. So I've
David, we meet again, and it's work.
We do meet again.
Yes, it's workshop 2, isn't it?
It is workshop 2. It's a pleasure working with you as well.
Oh, with you too, and all your knowledge. It's gone very well. I've only been able to attend for one day, but have you been pleased with it?
Very pleased, very pleased. We've been working with Wazen and Alan, two wonderful performance artists who have devised the piece with some of the Kara students. And we were filming that today, and it went very well. Some very interesting things, and we had a wonderful musician as well attend. He was just fantastic to see. He had a traditional Japanese instrument, I think called the shi or a shay.
Yes.
That you breathe into, and it sounds like a sort of mini pipe. We had some of the old crew again. We had a more artistic style shoot this time around. We weren't doing straight interviews as such, and straight cutaways. We were shooting a performance art piece, so it was a little bit of video art, so we could have a little bit more license with some of the techniques we were doing and the decisions we made to cover this stuff. It was really interesting, and it was great to be part of.
Yes.
Recording?
David, what's this lens going to give us as opposed to the previous one we had on there?
This lens is going to give us greater distance.
Right.
So we'll be able to get in closer to the action without physically needing to get in closer.
The girls that we've had for this workshop, you know, it's been amazing. It was quite a challenge to, first of all, draw their personal history, because it started off from that basis of, oh, well, I've got nothing really to tell, but actually what they had was good enough.
Yes.
You know, and it was important enough for us to build it, and we went through quite a few options in detailing their narratives and the stories, and really back to the core of it was asking them questions of who is the most important person in their lives, and what is the most important event that has impacted them in their lives so far. And I think that was a really good basis.
Yes.
We could draw them, and they were really courageous. Certainly the performance that Alan did was actually very inspired by the commemoration service that took place here.
The wind was, you always get something that you have to work against.
That's right, yeah, we're with the elements, totally outdoors for the entire day. We had wind and a bit of rain this morning that we managed to dodge, which was great. And plenty of sun and cloud, and sun going behind clouds, sun over clouds, and so it was a lot of bright and dark and stuff. Yeah. But good for the students to practice their aperture.
Oh, for sure.
Down onto that tree.
And I think everyone's realising it just doesn't fall together automatically. There's so many shots. The more shots you get, the better production, isn't it?
That's right. The idea is that the person's going to run kind of really tight.
The symposium, when is that scheduled to come up?
We have a symposium coming up in March, 6, 7, 8, 9 of March. Well, it begins, the pre-conference symposium dinner starts on the 6th, and then we have 7 and 8 for the symposium, and then the unveiling of the civilian internee interpretive board at the Japanese cemetery on the 9th. And the symposium is specifically about civilian internment in Australia during World War II.
It's certainly something to look forward to.